Welcome to SwarmCast, the marketing hive for pest control pros from coast to coast. If you're tired of your competition bugging you and want to grow your business like a well-built colony, you're in the right place. Each episode, we'll break down the latest marketing trends, expert insights, and proven strategies to help you exterminate the competition and keep your phones buzzing. So strap in, pest bosses. It's time to swarm the market and take your business to the next level. This is SwarmCast.
Welcome to Swarm, our pest control mastermind here. We're talking to Chris Anderson. His title on LinkedIn is Supercharged Employee Engagement for Home Services. That's exactly what these guys do. They're involved with the Swarm Mastermind. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me, Wyatt. We're really excited to meet with you. Love that we went to your event just recently. It was a great showing and just really anxious to work with you and your members.
So, Chris, tell me a little bit about Applause and how it got started. You know, a lot of people look at these software companies, and a lot of them are coming out of Utah. I'm not sure if you guys all live next door, but tell us how Applause got started.
Yeah, I mean, Utah itself is definitely a hub for entrepreneurship. I think there's just a huge demographic of just, sales-oriented folks, and that's what you really need to get a business going is just some sales acumen. So yeah, it's interesting to see all the SaaS products that have come out of Utah. It's kind of fun that we've built that kind of economy. But ultimately, Applause got started by my partner and CEO Taylor Olson. So prior to Applause, he actually owned and built a company called Slingshot. For those that are listening, they're probably pretty familiar with it. You might have used it in the past or heard of it before. But essentially, it was an after-hours call center to capture those calls, either sales or CS oriented, that you would have missed, if you weren't around or your team wasn't around to take it. So fielding those calls, pursuing those sales opportunities, and even diverting, overflow of sales opportunities to the sales reps that were trained over at Slingshot. And one of the things that he found always super difficult was incentivizing the workforce on the call floor. Even on the sales front, right? It's just really difficult to get these guys engaged, feel like they're contributing in a meaningful way, understanding how their contribution affects kind of the overall trajectory of the company. And he always had a number of different spiffs and incentives to make sure that the guys were doing what they wanted them to do, right? Like you meet this expectation, you get $10. You get your attendance is here, then you get another $20. So there was all these spiffs associated with the performance metrics, but it was just a huge, heavy burden on just the administrative staff, right? Of just tracking, okay, who met what, threshold to qualify for the spiff, making sure that spiff gets put into an environment where everybody can see, so everybody gets excited and gets kind of that recognition. So it was just a really manual process, but it worked, right? Ultimately, he just stopped doing it because he was the one that was, ultimately in charge of running the whole thing. And just as the CEO of a company growing like that, you don't have the time to invest in just tracking all of the different metrics and delivering the spiffs associated with them. So that was part of the impetus, right? Is that he knew that there was probably a better way to influence the behaviors of our workforce by streamlining and maybe automating some of these manual processes that many of us probably do on the spiff side of things. The second thing that got him prompted, because he exited Slingshot, could have ultimately just lived out his life comfortably, but felt like he had like one more in him, right? Where he felt a little uneasy with himself and saying that he could probably do that again and do it faster and do it bigger. And that's what prompted this idea for Applause, but more so during this transition in Slingshot, Taylor's dad actually tragically passed away early. So a very tragic circumstance, but his dad was an HVAC technician. And he had done that for, 25, 30 years of his life as just a technician, getting paid the same, no real opportunities for advancement, no real recognition or attaboys for the work that he's doing. It's just, hey, go fix stuff. This is your job. It's just a checklist that you need to get done. And it really kind of impacted Taylor to a point where he wanted to support the little guy. He wanted to create a method in which these hardworking technicians were recognized for all the great things that they do. because ultimately the technicians themselves, they have kind of the most influence over whether or not a customer has a great experience, right? It's not going to be because of the CEO, it's not going to be because of the branch manager, it's the technician. They're shaking the hands of the customer, they're the ones delivering the service, so they should be the ones that are most incentivized to make sure that the quality of the experience with the customer is top notch. So, with that in mind, Taylor thought of this idea of like, how can we incentivize technicians to do great work and reward that great work in real time? And actually, the first iteration of applause was tipping, right? So we took this concept of tipping that's been part of the service community for so long, and we incorporated it into the pest control space. And ultimately, what we found was that technicians were getting tips, right? It wasn't a foreign concept to most of them, but there was no streamlined method for a customer to provide a tip to a technician. It was, the stars had to align, so to speak, where the customer was there, they had cash, the technician was there, and that kind of transaction could happen. Um, so first iteration was tipping, to be honest. So that was the first kind of bonus spiff that came directly from the customer, that could motivate the technician to elevate their quality of service. So the tip itself was kind of this, carrot dangling at the end of the service, right? Where it's, hey, if I do a good enough job, I could qualify for a tip. And we saw this initial change in behavior of the technicians because they started to look at the services more as like opportunities versus, just a box that they needed to check, right? Just something that I need to get done. So that's kind of the story. The impetus there is Taylor wanted to create a solution to really incentivize this workforce as well as give back to them for all the hard work that they're doing because of his dad. So it's kind of a tribute to him. He left early and he's building this for him and all the other hardworking technicians that are out there that deserve some recognition.
I really appreciate that storytelling. And, just for the record, I was a part of Slingshot as far as we were a customer.
How are you?
Yeah, so we were probably one of the Slingshot customers. We heard good things. We put our pest control company on Slingshot. Those were the early days of our pest control company that we still own. And, we've used tools like Podium. We've used, review generation software out there, a lot of different ones. So what's cool about this is how, Applause started. And the first, I think about the first interaction I had with Applause was at Pest World last year. The guys came up, we started talking. I'm like, hey, that's ingenious. That makes sense to me. Just so you know, my dad was in HVAC.
How was he? That's
Yeah, so we keep on having this commonality. Yeah, I've done some software stuff too, but I'll leave that for another day. And this digital marketing agency that I've owned for 17 years, review generation is huge, right? I mean, if we were starting to talk about the SEO benefits, we start talking about your reputation. Now we're talking about generative AI. Where's it getting its knowledge? Reviews have become extremely important. And, I think a lot of the business owners' mentality is, well, these guys should be doing it anyway,
right.
and usually those are the guys with under 100 reviews.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Because,
funny
hey,
how
yeah, it's funny how that works. So we're asking our technicians out there to go do this as well, but we're not really going to compensate you for it. Or we're going to just say, yeah, let us know at the end of the week and we'll pay you for it. Yeah, that never happens, right? Or it becomes a process where somebody has to account for all that stuff. So let's talk about that for a minute. I mean, when I saw it, I got it. It was like, oh, you compensate them by tying into the software somehow. You got a leaderboard, so there you got this peer-to-peer thing going on. I mean, that's pretty cool. And I've seen that impact mastermind members in our mastermind that are
yeah.
running the Applause software. So tell us about that piece of it.
Yeah, the journey to reviews. I mean, like I said, it started with tipping, right? That's how we kind of broke into the market. It was a new concept that was being introduced into the industry. But ultimately, what we found out is that, the tipping part of it is pretty polarizing. There's a lot of people that love it, that find the value in it. There's those that are like, absolutely not going to ask our customers for that. So we knew really quickly that we had to pivot into other things that we could incentivize the technicians around. And the thing that came up really quickly was, okay, we're already asking the customer after a service is completed for a tip. why aren't we asking for all the other things that the business wants to get out of the customer, right? So NPS ratings, Google reviews, we've expanded into referrals, into upsell opportunities. So the transition into reviews was kind of the second iteration of applause. And it came because we went out and we interviewed business owners like yourself in the pest world. And we asked, hey, what are you doing about reviews? What's the current system look like? And the hard part isn't asking for the review. That seemed to be pretty easy, right? You just develop a message, you create an automation, it sends out once a service is complete. That part wasn't hard. But what we found from the pest control community is this solution that's referred to commonly as tip your tech, right? Where it's not necessarily a tip, but it is a bonus that comes from the company that goes to the technician in the event that the technician did a service that resulted in a 5-star review. So we found this process, this manual process that existed within a lot of these pest control companies, and we thought, hey, we can automate this. We can streamline this to make sure that it's not the onus isn't on the technician to go and ask for the review. So that was iteration number two. Is we found what the pest control companies were currently doing in a manual way, and we automated it by saying, okay, on every service, we can prompt for a Google review from the customer. And then we developed an AI algorithm that's now going to match the technician to the Google review in real time. And because we've already developed this solution for distributing tips to technicians instantaneously as this digital wallet, we already had a methodology to deliver funds to the technician because we were already doing that with tips. So the idea then became, okay, let's start to automate bonuses going to the technicians based upon the achievement of certain things that are important to the business. And that was first and foremost is Google reviews, right? It's like you said, it's the lifeblood of any home service business when it comes to SEO, reputation management. I would venture that any customer that's looking at any one of the pest control companies out there, they're going to go to Google and see what your star rating is. They're going to read through some of the comments there. So it's a big decision-making tool for those that are going to be net new business for you. So in an effort to do that, what started to happen is this real-time effect started to take place where again, it wasn't hard to ask for a review. That's not the hard part is how do we incentivize the workforce to elevate the quality of their work so that we qualify for more 5-star reviews, right? Because anybody can ask for a review. That part's not hard. It's just how do I incentivize the technician to not look at every service as just a box to check? And by delivering these bonuses in real time, what started to happen is this conditioning trickle effect of like what happens in a drip campaign, right? You're in marketing, the more exposure we get, the more clicks we get, the more impressions we get, the more likelihood that that converts into something that we want. And when we started to deliver these bonuses instantaneously to the technicians throughout their day, they just got elated, right? They're getting tips over here from the customers, makes them feel great. Now they're getting bonuses on reviews. And it's all attributed back to the quality of the work that they're doing. So naturally, what started to happen is they just started to elevate that quality, right? They started to make sure that gate was closed, right? So the dog doesn't get out, or they're picking up the dog toys before they actually, do the spraying to not contaminate any area. They're going up and shaking the customer's hand, knowing that that message is going to go out, asking them for either a tip or a Google review. So this significant increase in the quality work started to happen when we delivered those bonuses instantaneously. Because if you've got your own system set up to where it's like maybe 2 weeks out every payroll, you get some bonuses sent off to your guys. It definitely has an impact, but not more so than getting it in real time throughout the day periodically, right? The more impressions you get, the more we're going to be able to change those behaviors because they become reminders and they become influences for future behaviors. So yeah, that's kind of the differentiator for us is not just asking for the review, it's finding that core issue that was preventing more reviews coming in. And we found that that core issue was, hey, is my technician incentivized enough to treat the customer like I would treat them as an owner? And that's essentially what we're building, right? As little business owners out there in the field where they look at every service now as an opportunity for them because it's essentially more money in their pocket. And the great thing is the company's happy to pay it because it's aligned with some of their business objectives when it comes to improving their reputation through Google reviews or just improving the customer experience in general. So yeah, that was kind of the next step, the next iteration of Applause was moving into that review scene.
Yeah, I really like that you mentioned, hey, here's the AI component of our software that automated this thing so that it can make it a real-time scenario where you're not really taking the accounting department or somebody having to do some manual process where they screw it up.
Yeah.
Nothing's worse than incentivizing and then somebody in accounting screws it up to where they don't get paid. Now it's like a bone of contention as opposed of to an incentive for doing a great job. I love the
Right.
fact that you talked about it being in real time. So how real time is it? So somebody goes out there, they get a 5 star. How real time is it that they get notified and get paid?
So our system runs on a cadence of anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes. So every 5 to 10 minutes, we scan through all the reviews. Our AI tool is going to look for certain, key indicators that allow us to match a review to the technician. So we look for the technician's name within the message itself. We look at the customer's name. We look at when a link was clicked that came from a specific technician that was associated with that customer. We're looking at all the CRM data to see when that review was received versus when a service was provided. So there's a number of different endpoints that we use as an indicator to match whether or not that technician was responsible for receiving that review. So as quickly as 5 to 10 minutes on their way to their next stop, they could be receiving that notification saying, "Hey, you got $5," and that's immediately available within their wallet. They cash out to their bank account and they get that instant shot of dopamine, right? That is helping condition that behavior for the job well done. And that's kind of the whole concept, right? Is there's a number of different metrics that are being used to measure a technician. Why not attach some kind of incentive to it if they meet an expectation that you set as a threshold? So yeah, instantaneously on that end, and like you said, like the administrative labor that goes into running the system manually is the same thing that Taylor ran into, right? It works. It's a great tool to have and a great system to have in place, but ultimately it was just taking too much time out of his plate to where other things took priority. And I think many of us can, relate to that, where it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of things I wish I could do manually. I just don't have the time, and I have to prioritize the things that are going to move the needle the most. So the idea of, setting the parameters and just forgetting it and letting it run for you, you've essentially created an attaboy for all your technicians that just runs in the background, right? So nobody has to worry about matching and going to Google and making sure that that's done. And we're saving teams like for some of the bigger organizations, like find an employee in the couch cushions essentially, right? Because we've saved, 40 hours a week of this manual process going through multiple locations and it's really, really impactful just on the administrative burden that we've saved a lot of these companies.
That's awesome. I really like that. I mean, I obviously I've seen it work really well. Now, okay, now we're going to talk about it from the PCO, the typical mastermind member that's in my group, where they're like, well, that's going to come out off the bottom line, right? So how do you sell it to a pest control owner? You don't have to convince me. I see it. How do you convince a pest control owner that this is going to put more money in their pocket from a standpoint of well, I'll let you talk about all those points. What is in it for the pest control owner?
Yeah, first and foremost is going to be the generation of new Google reviews, right? Google reviews are a great channel for us to promote our services and promote our offerings. And it all comes down to three things with reviews, right? It's the count of reviews that you currently have compared to that in your geographical area. So if you're going to be lower on that totem pole, then obviously you're not going to show up first in the SEO optimization. Two is going to be your star rating, right? Companies with a star rating of 4.8 or above are seeing anywhere from a 15 to 20% increase in total revenue that's coming through that channel directly. The other really important key that's often overlooked is the frequency at which you're receiving these reviews. That goes into account in Google's algorithm, right? It's not just your star rating and the amount, and then, hey, you're done once you reach a certain threshold. Google looks at how frequently and how recently you've received some of these 5 star reviews and how relevant that is to promote to those that are searching for you, right? So if you got 1,000 reviews a year ago and you have a 5 star rating, that's all well and good, but Google is going to look at what most recently happened to indicate whether or not you're a good thing to promote to the people that are looking for that kind of a service. So that's one aspect on reviews is it's going to get you more exposure, more revenue, just because you're showing up more frequently in these SEO searches that customers are doing. The next thing, whether or not you have tipping activated, because that's an option that you can have on. The great thing about this is we've got customers that are with us that see sometimes double in tip revenue what they pay for us directly. Right. So essentially, we've increased the wages of your employees through no money out of your pocket directly. But by paying our fee and our subscription, we've essentially doubled that amount and given it back to your technicians, right? Which has tremendous value on a number of different fronts. One, your technician environment has been gamified. They're excited now about every service. They want to do a good job because that ultimately results in a tip for them. Two, that also equates to employee retention, right? If they're happy where they're at and they're earning more money than they could at the guy next door because they don't have some kind of a tipping operation, essentially you've increased the wages of your workers without it having to come directly out of your pocket to do so. So that has a ton of value as well. Beyond that, it all comes down to like customer retention, right? Because this whole idea around incentivizing the technician is in an effort to improve the quality of the work that is going out. So what's happening is we're seeing a huge uptick in the amount of, in the improvement of customer retention as a whole. Some anywhere from 5 to 10 points. One of our customers directly is Certus Pest Control. They saw about a 5% improvement in customer retention, which doesn't sound like a lot, but for them specifically, it equated to $4 million in annual recurring revenue that was saved by preventing those customers from leaving. And it was a 1.7 million avoidance in customer acquisition costs because they don't have to go back and fill that leaking bucket anymore. They're keeping their customers in seat longer. And we can't take all the credit for that, right? Because there's other initiatives going around to, promote customer retention. But ultimately, they attributed a lot of it to applause for a few reasons. One, they saw immediate excitement and quality of service go up from a direct measurement standpoint, right? The NPS ratings, the CSAT scores they were receiving from the customers went up significantly. But the other thing that happened is because the technician knew that they had the opportunity to either get a bonus on a Google review or a potential tip, they started to take better notes in the CRM. Now, why would they want to do that? Well, ultimately, they want the customer to know every little thing that they did so that they are better qualified at that point to receive, a bone or a Google review or some kind of a tip for the work that's being done. So the notes improvement within the CRM going to the customers made the customers feel all warm and fuzzy inside. Even though they didn't see the technician maybe out while they were there, they got this note that said, "Hey, I did this, this, and this, noted some cobwebs in this area over here." So because of that, the customer retention was really improved on that front. The other thing that organically happened was reservice rates went down, right? So they were more aware of the service that was being provided at the time. So ultimately, they made sure to dot all the I's, cross all the T's while they were there the first time, knowing that that was going to result in some kind of benefit or reward for them, which equated to, with one of our case studies, I think we cut their reservices in half, right? So no more sending out a technician where you're not making money on them. You're just getting gas, you're paying the cost of gas to send them out there, paying for the time of the technician to be out there for something that should have been done the first time. So those are, a few of the values that can come outside of just reviews themselves that we've seen, present in a lot of customers. So that's what I would say to the group that's like, hey, how does this affect my bottom line?
Yeah, talking about changing behaviors, and then all these wonderful things that take place because of it, right? So what you almost end up having is a workforce that's looking for those new opportunities because once you have a Google review, it's done, right? I mean, really, you can update it, but for the most part, it's a new one. So all your new customers that you're onboarding, they're going to be quick to get a good review, I'm sure, which is helpful, right? That's when you want to make a really big impact when you're picking up a new customer, for sure. So what
And
about go ahead, I'm sorry.
just to work off that point, yeah, we do see kind of that influx of Google reviews coming in immediately. But one of the other things that we've built in like the past just few months is this dynamic solution where we can prompt for the thing that you want from the customer in the right moment. So Google reviews are usually top priority, but what we've done is we've built a sequence of different things that you can ask for a customer, and you can put those into a prioritized list. So let's say Google reviews is number one. That's the thing that we're going to ask for customers until we get it. Once we get it, we can now move to potentially asking for an upsell right? Hey, you had a good experience with John. Did you also know that we do termite inspections? Would you be interested in a termite inspection? Click here if you're interested. Or, we also do mosquito treatment. Mosquito season is coming up. Let's run a campaign that's going out to all of our customers that are happy with our service. One, to educate them on the alternate services that we provide, but also give them an opportunity to tell us, hey, we're interested in, mosquitoes. The next thing that we could do is even ask for a referral. So let's say we got a lead that's already converted. We can have a separate sequence that says, hey, start to ask this customer for a referral. We can get them to send us a name directly, or we can provide them a link that they can use to post onto their social platform to share with their friends and family that, hey, I just had a great experience with XYZ Pest Control. So that's been super great as well, to not just produce on the review side of things, but also trying to leverage as much out of the customer as we can without being overbearing, right? That's the hard part. If we were to ask all these things in sequence, we probably wouldn't land on any of them. But what we do is we strategically identify that a customer had a great experience, and then we prompt for any one of those things based on your priority. And if we don't convert on any one of those things, we'll move on to the next one that could convert, or the next one that could convert. So that's a really important dynamic part of our system that allows for us to convert at such high levels, while at the same time attributing back to the technician's service as being kind of the catalyst that led to a referral, or that led to, an upsell that happened, to the point where we can even bonus out the technician if we receive a referral on their behalf. So let's say a referral comes in, we can send $1 off to the technician just for the mere fact that we got the referral. Right. So again, we're just increasing the awareness of the service being provided, knowing in their mind that, hey, if I do a good enough job, I can make a bonus on tips. I can make a bonus on Google reviews. I can make a bonus on, referrals that are submitted. It all stems from making sure that that core issue of the employee being incentivized to do great work is already taken care of. So those are a few of the things that we've done to kind of iterate and make our system a little bit more dynamic in the way we interact with customers.
It's going to become one of those things where I could hear a tech that leaves one company and goes to another. The first question they ask, hey, are you running applause? I know that's already happening. Tell me it's not happening.
It is 1,000% happening, to where we actually have a lead channel, and our lead channel has a specific attribution source. And one of those is technicians leaving to another company and asking if we have applause. And then that company reaches out to us because they're like, hey, we don't know what applause is. Our technicians are asking for it. So yeah, absolutely. It's one of our marketing channels. It's probably one of our funnest ones, to know that, hey, our technicians are super in love with the product to a point where they're
Oh
going
yeah.
and they're
Oh
saying,
yeah.
hey, I need applause. We even
You're,
had a
you're your
we even had a technician testimonial submitted once where the technician was talking about applause, saying, hey, it's the best thing that my company's ever done for me, particularly as a technician. And if my boss ever took this away from me, I'd probably have a meltdown. And for us, that's like just music to our ears, that one, we've, made a difference in the technician's life to where they see a tremendous value in the product that we've created, but also like the stickiness factor too of, hey, you can't get rid of it because it's going to make your technicians pretty upset as well.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that. I mean, once somebody's making, doing all these different behaviors that's, building value in that company, why not? Right? Why not? Now, tell us about some of the, I'm not sure if you're able to talk about it, but what are some of the cool things that you guys are R&Ding that's on your radar that you're going to push out there that needs to be out there?
Yeah. So we've started with these initial KPIs on the qualitative side of things, right? So NPS scores, we're measuring those, reporting on those, making those transparent to the technician, creating leaderboards about it. Google reviews, another qualitative score. Tipping in itself is kind of a qualitative score as well, whether the customer felt like what you did was worthy of some kind of gratuity. What we're now jumping into is the quantitative side of a technician performance, right? So not only are we tracking NPS ratings, Google reviews, Facebook reviews, we're now tracking their attendance. We have scorecards, and we have a way for the technician to see in real time what their attendance is like, what their reservice rate is like, what their driver score is like. We've just recently integrated with a number of different driver systems that are out there, and we're starting to incorporate the bonuses to the attainment of those specific metrics, right? So you reach a threshold on your driver safety score of 95, you get a $100 bonus for the month, right? It's within the best interest of the company to do that because it's saving them a ton of money on the insurance side of things. So well worth the investment to incentivize that behavior. Reservice rate. Your reservice rate goes below a certain percentage, you get, X amount for the month. Right. Again, it's in the company's best interest to do that because reservice rates usually means that we're not sending technicians out as often, which means we're saving more money on the back end. So happy to pay out whatever amount you feel like is going to be necessary to incentivize that behavior. So that's the vision that we have here, is not just get reviews and not just gather NPS ratings. It's incentivize all the behaviors by measuring the performance of the technician of the metrics that are important to the business, right? It's not just bonus to bonus. It's bonusing based upon an initiative that is going to propel the company for growth, sustainability, et cetera, that they're willing and happy to pay, and then automating that entire system, right? So it's no longer managing it manually, going out and saying, okay, did John, Jane, and Sally meet their expectations for driver safety? They did. Put it into a spreadsheet, get it over to payroll, get it over to them. It's just happening. You set the parameters, you let them know what they need to be doing, and then you pay them a bonus if they make those achievements. Now, the next iteration to that is we're going to start to be able to identify the gaps in some of these environments, right? Let's say that there's a gap on driver safety scores. At that point, we want to educate the technician on things that they can do to improve that score, and we want to be even more specific about the way that they can improve that score. So delivering using AI, delivering some insights on what they can do over the next week or so that is going to get that score up to 98 so that they qualify for that bonus at the end of the month. So making technicians more aware and educating them on how they can improve in those different areas is really where we want to, build the product towards. So those are a few of the R&D things that are currently in place. Obviously, a lot of AI components that we're introducing. We've just
Sure.
recently released an AI component on reviews, to where if you don't like to manually respond to reviews anymore, we have a button you can click and it'll automate that entire system for you. So all that time you're using to compose responses to the reviews that are coming in, we automate it. And that's really the vision that we have here, is we want to change those behaviors of the technicians for the better. But at the same time, we won't want to add any additional tasks to somebody's plate, right? We want to make sure that we're automating, leveraging AI when we can, just to make sure that it's not putting any additional burden on the teams. So those are a few of
That's
the
awesome.
things that we're looking to do. But again, all of it stems from this idea of employee engagement. That's the core issue that we found has such a trickle effect into so many different aspects of the business. So that's where we want to stay. That's where we want to play. And ultimately, that's where we see the most impact, is when we focus on the engagement of the employees.
It's awesome. Is there kind of an industry standard right now that you guys can share in the pest control space for retention of techs because of this? Do you
Yeah,
have like a benchmark?
I was actually putting together just a presentation on this very thing. If you give me a second, I can actually share those benchmarks with you.
Sure.
But let me see if I can find it here quickly. So within the pest control community, the employee retention turnover rate is close to about 26 to 33% is kind of industry average. Now, for those that don't know how to calculate employee retention, the way that we do that is we say, okay, we have the starting number of employees for the year. We add the number of employees that we had at the end of the year, and we divide that by two to get this average. So now we have our average. So for example, we had 20 employees at the beginning of the year, 15 at the end of the year. Divide that by two, that's about 17.5 is the average number of employees that we have. From there, what we're going to do is apply that to our turnover formula, which is employees who left divided by the average number of employees. So we started with 20. We lost about five throughout the year. So the five divided by 17.5. And then we multiply that by 100, and that'll get our turnover rate. So in that case, 5 divided by 17.5 times 100 would be about 28.5%. So that's how employee retention is calculated. And you can do your own math to see where you fall in that 26 to 33% benchmark rate.
Sure. Well, it's a big expense, isn't it? I mean, we didn't talk about what's the expense of training, bringing new people up, uh, what customers see when you're doing a revolving door with your employees.
Yeah.
Suddenly those tipping costs and or bonuses look pretty small real
Yeah.
quick. real
The
quick?
I think it's kind of overlooked in a lot of businesses is the cost of just losing an employee. It's just,
Hmm.
part of business, right? We are going to lose employees, but anything that we can do to save that employee makes a significant difference to the bottom line. So if you think about it, you have to think about, all right, I don't have one technician, which means my routes are probably going to be either delayed or I have to allocate those routes to other people on the team. That could cause a significant burden for them because they're picking up the slack of maybe somebody else that was supposed to be there. So that can cause a hardship for our customers, right? If they're not receiving the timely service that they're expecting, could result in some kind of churn. So there's some costs associated there. But then also the time of just screening. In my experience, when I'm hiring people, I'm going through 10 to 20 resumes before I find two to three that I'm even actually interested in. So there's this time of recruiting that we now have to allocate, and that time costs money. It's somebody on your team that's doing it. It might even be yourself that's doing it, right? And you could be doing other more important growth initiatives apart from just finding somebody else to backfill a role that you've just lost. And then from there, there's also going to be this time of training, right? Enablement, making sure that they're brought up to speed to where they're able to go out and run a route on their own. And that's going to take time, some resources out of somebody else that's going to have to train them up and get them up to speed. And then there's the ramp time, right? They're not going to be as efficient and effective right out the gate. They're probably going to have, less accounts to be managing in their first route before they can take on a full route. So there's a lot of cost associated with the churn of an employee that often get a little bit overlooked because it's such a common thing that happens in the workplace. And it's reported, and there's this idea that it's almost about half of in a technician's salary that it's going to cost you to backfill that role, get somebody trained up, ramped up, and ready to go. So if you apply that to say, 50K salary, you're losing 25K per employee, and you've lost five employees on the year, you're losing about 125K in your bottom line, just by not focusing an effort to engage and keep your technicians in seat. So pretty impactful when it comes to the bottom line if you really dig into the numbers.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I think a lot of business owners know, there's a significant cost when you have turnover. So why not keep them happy, keep them engaged, change their behavior with good things that are tied to things that really move the needle, especially with your customer for sticking with you. So that's a lot of wonderful things. Love the use of AI and sharing where we're going with this. Is there anything on the docket? And I'm not sure if you have this capability or not, but are you able to tie into Yelp as well or any other review engines?
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever channel that you want us to promote, we can definitely do that. Now, the caveat is that we only have certain systems set up for auto bonus and auto matching. So with Yelp, we can definitely promote Yelp if that's a priority for you. We've come across Yelp quite a few times and everybody's got their own opinions of it, but it seems like a pay to play type of system or a pay to succeed, right? Where you have to subscribe to their plan in order for your positive reviews to get actually mixed in with your negative. So I think there's a little bit of bias on their end to where I particularly don't see a ton of the value in pushing to Yelp, but there are some environments and locations where Yelp is a major influencer for a lot of their business, so it makes sense. But that can be one of those prioritized options, right? So Google reviews can be first, but maybe Yelp is kind of your second channel where you're developing the most revenue, and that could be the second thing we ask for. So as soon as we convert on a Google review, then automatically we're going to ask for Yelp. And then once we convert on Yelp, maybe we ask for a referral. Once we convert on a referral, maybe let's ask for an upsell opportunity. So that's the beauty about our system is the customizable, features that it has to where your customers can go through whatever experience you want them to. But to your point, yeah, Yelp's one of them. Better Business Bureau has been another one that we've done for. Facebook is one that we do have an automated match and bonus system in place. So if you wanted to push, your customers to Facebook, we can give your technicians a bonus and match that directly back to them, which is great. But yeah, we can customize anything that you want to go to your customers. We can usually build out a custom link for it.
It's awesome to know. Yeah, those are the two big ones. I think Yelp is not necessarily a big one in this particular industry. When I see low Yelp scores, it's it really matters when people are coming to your location, like a restaurant or something, where it's pulling up in the navigation system and showing the reviews, right? So, not typically the case for pest control, but it does matter with restaurants and other places that have that retail kind of a feel to it for sure. Cool.
Oh,
That's great. Yeah, I love the, just all the work that's been done on this platform. Looking forward to seeing, how it evolves this year and being involved with you guys. Obviously you're going to come out and speak again in November at our next event. And then I'm sure we're going to see you at Pest World. You'll be there, I'm sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Um,
One
but
of
this
our better shows for sure.
Right on. So I think we like you covered everything. I think you've sold this stuff and talked about it enough to where you don't even need a script, man. You had it down, and thanks for sharing that. The recent data on the loss of employees and tying it into that. So we've really handled two things: what's in it for the tech, what's in it for the business owner. What about for the customer? They're going to get better service, right? We're going to implement behavior that's really going to impact a better service, and I think, yeah, you guys are definitely a market disruptor. I don't think I see a whole lot of other players in this space, and certainly not doing what you guys have done as far as you've come. Now, is it true that you guys have tens of thousands of technicians already running on this platform?
Yeah, yeah. So we have, I think, roughly, I think the last count was close to like 45,000 users total. So a lot of those are going to be administrators, not necessarily all technicians. But yeah, the user count has been really awesome to see. We have actually an internal metric that we monitor that is earned incentives. And what that essentially means is, how much of our system is providing a bonus or a tip or some kind of reward to the technician is kind of our North Star. Because as you mentioned before, it's a win-win-win, right? If the bonuses are going out, that means the technicians are happy. If the bonuses are going out, it means they're meeting certain metrics that makes the company happy. And if the bonuses are going out, then essentially the customer is happy too, because that usually resulted in a quality score that came directly from the customer. So this idea of win-win, we've kind of elaborated on it with a win-win-win, where everybody that's part of the organization, even the customer themselves, are finding benefit and reward from it. So it's been a cool ride, like just to see some of the things that the technicians are, able to do with this surplus money. I mean, these guys are hurting, right? Like this economy sucks. Like gas is high, are high, and ultimately just everybody needs cash right now. We've thought about implementing a system where they had like a marketplace to go out and pick from. But when we did some research on it, we found that if there was a marketplace, everybody was choosing Amazon gift cards, gas cards, Walmart gift cards, which is essentially a cash equivalent. So we're like, hey, let's get these guys cash. It's what they need. It's what's going to make a difference in their life. And ultimately, some of these guys save up for the entire year to splurge on Christmas for their family, or they get to buy that big screen TV that they wouldn't have otherwise been able to get on their regular salary. So just to see those kinds of things happen while at the same time creating an experience that's better for them, just overall, it's gamified, it's fun, they're more inclined to provide a great service. It really kind of calls back to Taylor doing good by his dad by, giving these guys the recognition and kind of the attaboys that have always been missing to make sure that their work is appreciated. So yeah, it's been an awesome ride. I think companies have been super happy with us. Technicians obviously are elated, and it's just awesome to hear those kind of stories as they come through the pipe.
Oh man, I really appreciate you taking the time and going through all these things with applause. And it's definitely a market disruptor. Glad to be working with you guys with the sponsorship with our mastermind. Looking forward to doing some amazing things this year. We have one of our first mastermind members, actually the first mastermind member, rolling out applause. Can't wait to follow up with his journey and talk about that story come November, because he's just under 200 reviews now. I want to see when we get to the November where he's at and how it's impacted his goal of trying to reach $1 million in revenue for his pest control company. We're going to be telling that story and keeping up on a monthly basis on that. So we appreciate that. Everything that you've done in the industry, Chris. Glad you decided that you got on board with creating this company or getting involved with it and everything that you guys do. So I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate the
Look forward
time,
to
man.
it.
And yeah, we'll crank out those reviews for them and we'll report back in November, maybe even sooner, but they'll be up there for sure.
That's That's a wrap on this episode of SwarmCast. Thanks for tuning in and arming yourself with the marketing firepower to keep your pest control business thriving. Before you scurry off, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode and leave us a review. It helps us spread like a well-placed bait station. Got a topic you want us to tackle? Drop us a line and let's keep the conversation buzzing. Until next time, stay sharp, stay strategic, and keep swarming the market.